And we are back. This is Edna White of Keeping It Real on Purpose, and my co host for this segment, Aretha Taylor. And today we're going to be talking about the X factor, how to have or navigate a relationship with the X, with some practical advice and some suggestions from the both of us. So, of course, I'm going to be the great host that I am. And I'm going to hand it over to you to start
Oh,
it. Okay, okay. I gotta stop this laughing. I'm the host, so go ahead.
she
Take it from here.
railroaded me with this one, y'all. She railroaded me with this one. Okay. Wow.
This is a real one now. This is a real one.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. It depends. It depends on so much. First of all, if you have children with each other, that's a big one
Uh huh.
because now you have to co-parent. You have to be decent to each other for the sake of the children, right?
Right.
I've gone through that. I went through that. We weren't even a couple. We were kids. I was 15. I
Yeah.
got pregnant at 15. I had my daughter at 16, and we parent totally different. Our parenting skills are totally different.
Yeah.
And but I had to be decent in a lot of ways,
Okay.
and sometimes he was not cooperative, so it made it was a little challenging for me.
Mm-hmm.
But for the sake of my daughter, I had to be decent with him. I had to be loving, kind. Um, and huh, he also had another child.
Mm-hmm.
While I was 5 months pregnant, I found out that someone else was pregnant for him,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And so
That carries
now,
a whole lot of emotions too. Ugh.
oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. And he was more involved in that child's life than he
Right.
was with me and my daughter.
Right. Right.
However, because of now I was 16, right?
Right.
But my mentality then was I still wanted my daughter to have a relationship with him.
Right. Right.
Regardless of how I felt,
Right.
regardless of what he did, I still wanted that and she needed that.
Yeah.
So I made sure that she had a relationship with her father as well
Mm-hmm.
as her siblings, even
Mm-hmm.
though it was painful. Um, because again, we have to think about the children and what's
Yeah. Of
best for the children.
course. Yeah.
And there are adults who don't think that way. I was
Yeah.
a child and I thought that way because I knew what it was like to not
Yeah.
have a father.
Exactly. I was gonna say that. Yeah.
So I wanted that for her. As long as it's a safe place,
Yeah.
she's not in any, your child is not in any danger,
Right.
then it's important
Yeah.
for that child to have
Absolutely.
that parent in its life.
Yeah.
And the adults need to work on their emotions, on their issues separately. Don't get the children involved,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
if it's a situation now where it's your ex-boyfriend, um, um, mm, I just had to tell someone today,
Right.
okay, you know what? No, we can't even be friends because he wants to be more than friends. And I've known this guy since 2003
Right.
and we dated for maybe 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, he still wants to be friends. He's moved on, he's had children, he's even married now. Yet he still wants to be more than friends. I can't
Right.
offer that to you. I can't give that to you. So therefore, we cannot be friends because I don't want to be. I don't want to be
Right.
more than friends.
Right.
I have an ex-boyfriend who's
Yeah.
in my life, and he's also in my daughter's life,
Right.
and we maintain a great relationship because
Mm-hmm.
we're just friends.
Right.
We don't want anything more from each other.
Right.
Love one another. He's loyal to me. I am loyal to him. We're respectful of each other.
Mm-hmm.
But in order for you to navigate exes,
Mm-hmm.
it has to be where the both of you are on the same page,
Yeah.
because the person may want to have a relationship and you don't, or you may want a relationship and they don't. That's
Right.
unhealthy. That's unhealthy.
Yeah.
So you have to work on that, where you get to a place where you both have to come to an alignment, an agreement to say,
Yeah.
this can't go
Absolutely.
any further.
Yeah.
This can't go any further. And for the reason why it can't go any further, because it can work. You
Right.
can have exes as your friends and it can still work. But if there are still emotions there
Yeah.
and attraction there, mm, that's
Yeah.
kind of, that's kind of,
I'm going to say, I'm going to negate you now on the friends. I
yeah,
could say that I could be friendly with them.
yeah,
I'm not going to say I'm being friends with them because I'm not running
yeah,
to them and telling them everything. I'm just not.
right.
I'm not going to do that. But I will be friendly with them.
Yeah.
Um, I think some of the steps that I was involved in when I was moving from a breakup to a healthy interaction, I had to, like you just said, I had to pivot and say, it's not about us. It's about, the child. It's about, you know, um, it's just about something more than that, having a healthy, separate relationship. It's not about us because we were not good together. Even if we didn't have children, we're not good together.
Yeah.
It's toxic. So it's about having a healthy relationship and boundaries. So it's
Hmm.
not about that, and I think taking that step and a lot of times we don't step back far enough. We step back one step, but we don't step back far enough. That means getting complete. A breakup means just what it is, a break.
Oh,
And up over there, two different directions. It doesn't mean crack and then come back. A breakup is just what it is. It's probably meant that it wasn't supposed to be at that particular time,
mhm.
right? It could be at another time, but it probably then was probably not a good idea. And the breakup happened. So you have to realize that you have to not just back up, hands off, but you have to break up and break out, get away. Because in all of that, like you said, the emotional part, oh my,
Mhm.
that is flaring. So you're still in love, or you're still in or you're still in lust, whatever it is, you're still there. And you have to really, it's almost like you have to go to another sea and just
Yeah.
separate,
Right.
and when I was going through a breakup of my second marriage, what's the name of that book now? Well, I forgot her name. I could see her face, but she wrote the book about soul ties.
Okay.
What's her name? Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
Oh, do you remember the name of the book?
Soul ties.
Oh, okay. Soul Ties. All right. Mm-hmm.
Soul ties. And what is her name? Not Oh my goodness, I can't remember her name. But she had started a church in her house. It wasn't even a
Mm-hmm.
church. She had started ministering in her house, and it was her and her husband. Um, and she wrote this book, Soul Ties. And one of the recommendations she had said was, when there's a breakup,
Mm-hmm.
means really just break up,
Mm-hmm.
and take some time away separately,
Mm-hmm.
and when there's a soul tie involved, so your soul, meaning all of who you are, meaning all of this is
Yeah.
tied to this person,
Yes.
chemically, bloodline. So think about this. It sounds nasty,
Is her
but
name is Candice?
no,
Okay. All
mm-mm,
right.
mm-mm.
Someone
I
else. All
could
right. Go
see
ahead.
her
I'm
face. I
sorry.
could see
I'm
her
sorry.
face. Ah, and anyway, when you kiss, you're
Yes.
intermingling saliva,
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
you can, and your cells are kind of like
Mm-hmm.
meshing to one another. So it takes time
Mm-hmm.
to separate from that, to get used to not doing that very same thing. So think of it on the level of, now that you're being intimate,
Mm-hmm.
intimate more than kissing. So all of your cells and all of your blood and all your saliva and all of those other liquids are
And your
mixing,
spirits become connected now.
connected. They're soul ties.
Yeah.
So now your soul is tied to this person,
Hmm.
even if you don't have children, you're tied to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And a breakup means that you have to just you can't. It's hard, but you gotta make it. Think of it. It's healthier because we got to be apart, and being apart actually helps that out of your system. It's like being detoxed. But when you keep going back in, you get toxic. So when you're detoxing, when you're away, and I used to say this little thing. What is it? A little idiom. Absent makes the heart go fonder. No, it don't. Not in certain situations.
Who came
No,
up
it
with that?
don't. It does not do that. But it absolutely is time for you to be alone with yourself. And that's one of the steps she had said is to, when it's a breakup, it's a breakup. You set the boundaries in place so that you can start to heal and so that you can be peaceable with yourself. Because if you're not peaceable with yourself, then you're not going to be peaceable with the person that you were in a relationship with so many years, right?
Right. And I think it's also important. I tell both men and women this: when you break up from a relationship, give yourself some time to heal, to
Hmm.
grieve before you move on to another relationship.
Oh
A
yeah,
lot of people
absolutely.
go from one
That's another thing she had
next to
said.
the
Yeah.
next to the next, and you're bringing everything from this relationship into the
Yep.
other.
No
And
doubt.
again, you speak about soul ties because that you've been with, everyone that I've been with, now
Yep.
you're with that person, right? Because I'm
Yep.
bringing that into
Right.
that relationship. So you need to give
Emotionally, everything. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
everything
You're right.
to break away from that, to sever ties from those individuals. That's why you can't be friends or friendly all the time with
Mhm.
certain
Okay.
exes.
No.
It's not healthy for you or for them, especially the way you broke up.
Yes.
Um, so
Yep.
you kind of you have to
That's
give
right,
yourself
sis.
time to grieve because breaking up is a grieving.
Oh
You
yeah. And that's what we don't
sometimes,
do, sis. We
yeah,
don't do that. We don't do that.
especially when
We
you've been with the
don't
person
take
for a
time to
long
do that.
time, and it's you've got to give yourself, it's a death.
It is.
So you must go through that phase of grieving and allow
Mm-hmm.
yourself to grieve before moving on to another relationship.
Yep. It's
And
the
you
truth.
must first have a relationship with
Mm-hmm.
self. You know how many of us who do not have a relationship with yourself? They don't even know what that
And
means.
that's a problem. That's
They
how I
don't even
think
know
it
what that means.
becomes
They don't
unhealthy.
understand. They don't understand what that means. I
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time alone, and I
Mm-hmm.
spend a lot of time with myself,
Mm-hmm.
getting to know who Aretha is,
Yeah.
what she likes, what she wants.
Yeah.
And that is, if you know who you are
Yeah.
and what you want, then it's easier
Oh yeah.
for you now to be in a relationship with someone,
Yep.
or even the person that you choose to be in a relationship with. You begin now to choose differently. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Choose a
Absolutely.
different kind of person that you normally or you used to choose,
Yeah.
because now you've spent so much time with you. You've allowed yourself to heal. You've done some self-examination. You've gone
Mm-hmm.
and you've dug out and you've rooted out and you've
Yep.
taken some things out. So
Yeah.
and in doing the digging, now that's where the
Yeah.
ties, the disconnect comes,
Yeah.
because you're
Exactly.
mentally
Because
and
you're
emotionally
digging. You're digging. Right. You're
disconnected,
digging.
yes, from those
Yeah.
previous relationships
Right. And you're digging into yourself too. Like you
in
said, it's
yourself.
important to know
Yes.
ourselves. A lot of times we get wrapped up with the wrong people is
Mhm.
because we don't know ourselves, and hurt people.
Right.
And it's Joyce Myers. That's who it is. So as soon as I said that, it's Joyce Myers. She wrote a book, what the heck was the book? It had something to do, Healing the Soul of a Woman.
Uh,
And it relationship soul ties, that's what it was. Joyce
Okay,
Myers.
Joyce Myers.
Joyce Myers. Now you're not. Don't tell her my age. So cut it out now. But I read that book, and it meant it helped me so much to get through all of this, because I had to come to understand myself and love myself. And the thing that was laying around was those lingering emotions from an ex and an ex, or just linger emotions from other stuff.
Yep.
That's why I latched on,
Right.
and I wouldn't let go.
Right.
And although it was toxic, I remained in it because that's all I knew.
That's
Because
what
now
it
I'm
was.
getting used to
That's
it.
all you knew. Yeah.
Starting to get used to it now. The toxicity, going, leaving, going, leaving, treat me bad, going, leaving, cheating, the going, cheat. I'm used to it now. It's a habit. And what's in the back of my head? What do you think is in the back of my head? You'll never guess. I think you might. You might. You might. What do you think is in the back of my head?
What? What?
Divorce is not an
An
option.
option.
Ah! To death do us part. And not until I really read the scripture in spirit and in truth, did I realize what that meant. Because the relationship has to die. To death do us part. When the relationship
Mm-hmm.
dies,
Right.
not when we die, but when the relationship dies,
Right.
then we part.
Right.
So I
Right.
didn't get that, but that was playing over in the back of my head. I forgive him. Oh, and do this. Oh, I forgive him. Yeah. And I wasn't really forgiving because I was still had it in my repertoire of tools to bring out when we got into an argument. When we got into an argument, I brought it out like a 6 gun shooter. I brought it out. So
Yeah.
I wasn't really forgiving. I was saying it, but what it was doing more than that, it was damaging my mental health, my emotional and mental health,
Mm-hmm.
because of the unresolved issues that were still there. And I was just pulling them out, boom,
Mm-hmm.
pulling them out. Every time he did something, I bring up 10 years ago, bring
Mm-hmm.
up 5 years ago, because it was still lingering.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn first to forgive me. In order for this to work, I had to have to sever the soul ties.
Yeah.
I had to forgive me for not having the ability to know what was right for me,
Yeah.
and not the ability to get out sooner than I was in, and forgive myself for just not loving me enough
Mm.
to get out,
Mm-hmm.
and those are the things I had to forgive myself for first. Then I can probably not get past the grievances,
Mm-hmm.
remember the grievances, but move on from them.
Mm-hmm.
Because things that hurt you will forever change you. You're not
Mm.
getting over it. You're not getting over it. You're not forgiving it. It's there. It's like a cut. So you get cut, guess what? It may be healed, but
Mhm.
that cut is still right there unless you get plastic surgery.
Right. The scar
Still
is
there.
still there. The wound is
Scar is
still
still
there.
there.
Yeah. 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 With my ex, when I was in my early 20s,
Hmm.
the one that we're still very good friends till this day,
Hmm.
we were in a 4 years abusive relationship,
Yeah.
very abusive. But I was the abuser.
Oof.
I was the abuser. I was verbally,
Hmm.
mentally, emotionally, and
Yeah.
physically abusive to this man for
Hmm.
4 years. And it
Wow.
brought him into a depression. It broke him. It broke us.
Hmm.
And I was at a place in my life at that time when we first met, we were both 22 years old.
Hmm.
I was angry. I was hurt. I was betrayed. I
Yeah.
was abandoned. I was rejected by family, by friends, by my daughter's father, by the
Gotcha.
church, and I took it out on him.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it with a vengeance. And
Wow.
when we were breaking up, he I had never apologized to him really.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But I remember after I moved, because we used to live together, so I moved in my own apartment, and he came
Right.
over one time, and we were watching. I never forgot this movie. We were watching Dead Presidents with
One of my
Lawrence
favorite go-tos.
Tate, with Lawrence Tate, and
Yes. Good
there was
grief.
a scene. There was a scene where he and his girlfriend were fighting. They were fist fighting.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I noticed that he jumped up, left, and went to the bathroom, and he was there for a minute. So I was like, why are you in there so long? So I paused the video, went knocking on the door, and I was like, are you okay? And he said, give me a minute. So he comes out,
Mm-hmm.
and um, I can tell he was crying.
Right.
And wow, yeah, even talking about it now, it's painful.
Yeah.
It's painful because I was not a nice person. And he said to me, that just brought back some memory. That was a triggering
Yeah.
for him. But we never sat and talked about how it affected him, what it did to him
Mm-hmm.
emotionally. It was 4 years ago in 2020 when I called him up and I apologized to
Yeah.
him over 30 years later, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed I hadn't forgiven myself,
Mm-hmm.
right? I hadn't forgiven myself for hurting him
Right.
and for making him feel the way that he did,
Mm.
and I needed to forgive myself as
Yeah.
well, because that was all learned behavior,
Oh yeah.
and that was what I saw, that was what I grew up in, that was what I
Mm-hmm.
experienced, that was what I was taught, and I took it out on him
Mm-hmm.
along with everything else that I was carrying.
Yeah, we
But
do that.
because of the heart that he has and
Yeah.
the person that he is, that's why we were able to maintain this friendship over the
Mm-hmm.
years. He walked my daughter down the aisle, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, that's the kind of relationship we have now. We don't speak often,
Right.
speak maybe twice a year. We may text each other in between, but I love him dearly
Mm-hmm.
because he's a good man,
Right.
a good man. So in terms of having still maintaining a friendship after a relationship, being in a relationship with someone,
Mm-hmm.
it depends on so much,
Yeah.
because the anger that's there,
Mm-hmm.
you got to get rid of that anger.
Oh yeah.
You have to forgive in order to move on for yourself,
Of
to
course. Yeah.
move on
That's the most important part is
into a
yourself.
relationship, because you bring that into the other relationship, and now it's like, whoa, that now you become this toxic, angry individual
Yeah.
who's hurting
Yeah.
someone else. Yeah.
Yeah. What's some tip that you could give to someone who's in a new relationship, right? But you're friends with your ex and they're uncomfortable with it.
Is it worth it?
Good question.
You know what I mean? If I mean, is it worth
Woo!
it? Like, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Because sometimes what we're doing is we're hindering and we're blocking
Yeah.
what God has for us by still holding on to
Right.
the past,
Right.
because
Right.
our ex is our
Yeah.
past,
Right.
right? So I'm in a waiting position. I'm waiting for a husband. I would like to get married. So
Mm-hmm.
when I have this husband, and this husband learn of this friend that I have, and I explain to him who he is in my life,
Right.
and that husband is mature enough to say, I trust you and I understand. But what about those who don't understand, who don't
Right.
trust you, who has an issue with it? you have to take their feelings into consideration,
Yeah.
and your relationship,
Yeah.
is it worth it? Because it may um create an issue, create a problem.
Right. Right.
So that's what you need to ask yourself.
Is
Is
it worth it? Worth
it?
it. That's a good one. Yeah. I'm going to go along with you on that one. That's a great answer. Is it worth it? And
Yeah.
if you want to have a great relationship, you have
And a
to
healthy
say it,
one.
and a healthy one, a new
Yeah.
one, the new one. And then
Right.
it's just like holding on to old pictures
Right.
and old, love letters.
Right. What's the purpose of
What's
holding
the
on to?
purpose of that?
Mhm.
Meaning there is some lingering relationship,
Mhm.
emotions that you need to like suss out and dig through,
There you go.
because you need to work that out. And it's not about the new person. And do you want to bring that new person in if you can't let go of the past?
Right.
That's a really good point you made.
Right.
Looking back, if we're looking back, right? Is there
Mhm.
anything you would have done differently, managing the relationships with your ex?
Um, yeah. Yeah, because there was a time where, you
Yeah,
know,
me too.
the flames come back up, and you
Yeah.
get involved emotionally or sexually again or physically again with
Yes.
this individual,
Yeah.
and you're like, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
That's why it's important for you to
Yeah.
really let go.
Yeah.
Let
My
go.
grandmother told me something one time. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, she said to me, because I said, "Oh, I was talking about my ex. He's now an ex, but he had did something that I was ready to divorce him." Then I told her, "Well, the church says blah blah blah," and she says, "Well, do you ride a bike backwards?" And I said, "What?" She said, "I'm just asking. Do you ride a bike backwards?" I said, "No." Then she said, "Why would you go back to that? Why would you go back? It's like a pig going back into its
Yeah.
muck and mire,
So it's slop.
its slop."
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
that's when I filed for divorce. I was like, my grandmother told me this, and she was like 98. Okay. And that's when I said, okay. Because I used to call her and my dad all the time when he was living and tell them things that she asked me, does a bike go backwards? It's
Mhm.
like a pig going back into the slop. After
Mhm.
you done cleaned it up, to get rolled back in it. You want to do that? And I said, no. She said, then don't go back. So if I would have known that sooner, it took me longer to get out of it. I would that I was more aware. I would that I had a better support system
Mhm.
in the breakup. I would that would have had that, and because I had no example of what healthy looked like,
How
had no example.
yeah.
I saw the Brady Bunch. I saw.
Right?
I don't.
That's what we grew
I
up
saw
on,
those
right?
shows. But that wasn't healthy to me. That was a show.
Right.
The Cosby's.
Right.
Things like that. I didn't know what that was.
Right.
I was living a fantasy. Like, so when it didn't turn out like that, and I know that every relationship is not, you know, hunky dory, or not even hunky dory. You can have a conversation, or you can have a disagreement, and it'd be fine. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to say every relationship is not hunky dory. I'm just saying it's supposed to be peaceable. It's supposed to be.
And
If you're having a disagreement or whatever,
yes.
you can have that. So, um, but I didn't know what a healthy one looked like. Everyone that I saw,
Mm-hmm.
everyone that I looked down in the my timeline was unhealthy, including my grandmother's was unhealthy. Was
Mm.
unhealthy. So I didn't know any better, you know. And you get into a rut. You don't see
Yeah.
anything to look backwards and say, hey, here's an example. So you see what, and you keep moving forward in that same pattern.
Unhealthy, right? You had
unhealthy.
no example,
No example of
no
healthy.
positive example, no positive mentor.
No.
My mom, with my ex, my mom had gotten involved in it because he called her, right?
Yeah, see, that's horrible.
He
Yeah.
tattletailed on me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, put her on the phone. So I come on the phone and she goes, Aretha, I'm Jamaican, right? Where you get
Mm-hmm.
this behavior from? Where you get this from? I says,
Mm-hmm.
what do you mean where I got this from? I got this from you. You taught me this.
Good one.
She was silent
Mm-hmm.
because I've
Didn't want to
never
hear the
been over
pain.
her
Didn't
before.
want to hear the pain.
No, she was, it hit her
Mm-hmm.
because also that's how you treated me. That's how
Right.
you treated my brothers.
Right.
That's how you treated your
Us.
common law
Yeah.
husband. That's how you treated the whole household, the whole family.
Yeah.
So, what do you mean where I got this behavior from? I got it from you, mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, when he said to me at the end, he goes, if you don't change, you're going to be just like your mother, old and alone. That
Yep.
hit me hard. And I needed now to do some work.
Right.
I needed to do a lot of work, and the work wasn't overnight. I'm still doing the work at 55 years old,
Right. Yeah, I know. I got you. I'm there too.
right? There's
I'm
some
there too.
residue, there's a lot of residue that's there
Yeah.
still
It has to
that
be
I'm
cleaned
still
out.
cleaning it out from a child because it trauma begins
Yeah.
so early in our lives.
Toxic. Very toxic.
You know what I'm saying? And the whole entire family was toxic.
Toxic.
My
Yeah.
entire environment was toxic.
Yes.
Even
Yes.
friends that I had at that time in my life, they didn't respect men. Like they talked down to men.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
bullied men.
Yep.
They disrespected their men
Yes.
at that age.
And
So,
you guys
so
best believe that. That's a generational trauma right there.
generational trauma because
It's
that's
a
what we were taught. That's
generational
what we
pattern.
saw our mothers, our grandparents do.
Generational.
Our grandmothers did that, so we took
Beat them
that
over
on.
the
So
head,
now you got
and
to
it's supposed to be
unlearn. Hit it
good.
over the head,
All
girl,
of that. Yeah, it's supposed to
girl,
be good. We're supposed to be
girl.
good with that.
Right.
Or the husbands working. My grandfather, my paternal grandfather, and well, I didn't know my maternal grandfather, but her stepfather. They both worked on the railroad line. So they were having affairs on all their wives that stayed at
Oh,
home, all
wow.
their children, taking care of all their children, and having affairs and having children. The people would drink, dropping kids off to them, but they were supposed to put up with it. Let me tell you, that happened to me in my second marriage. And when he said that to me, I saw my grandmother. I said, "You'll never do that to me. You made it, you take care of it. I ain't got
Mm,
nothing to do with it.
mm.
That's it. That's no, we're not raising nothing. Only thing I'm raising is some HE double L, okay? Okay, that's all. But we're not
Oh,
raising nothing. My time is over. My kid is 13, you know? That's
wow.
it. No. Mm-mm. But we have to see the thing that we keep going into with these relationships is that we don't sit down and look at our past and examine our past, examine our patterns that we acquired. You know, there may be a family issue where every woman in your life, all the way back to your grandmother, ain't had never had a husband, but had kids. That's a pattern.
Mhm, mhm,
Or they may have been every woman in life may have been divorced.
mhm,
That's a pattern.
mhm, mhm,
Or the women in their lives, and I'm not saying all women, but the women in your lives may have beat their husband,
mhm,
and that's a pattern.
mhm,
The pattern, and
mhm,
you have to sit down because you don't know where you're from,
mhm.
you don't know where you're going,
Going.
and if you're gonna keep repeating the same thing in all these relations, we could talk a good game, but it's not about the talking; it's about the doing the inner work and fixing it.
Mhm.
not giving our kids, see, you did a beautiful thing, I did a beautiful thing, not arguing and anything in front of them. I severed my relationships. See, my first my kids are old. I don't owe you the blessing of my voice when you didn't give me the blessing of your support for your children. I don't owe that to you, no matter what condition. I don't owe that to you. I don't. And when you decided to go where you wanted to go, you do. What am I supposed to come rallying back because you're who? I'm not. That's not. God didn't make no man an idol, so I'm not going to do that with you
Right.
at all. We parted. Dusted my feet off, and I kept it moving. So you have to do that sometimes and
Yeah.
keep it civil. You could say hello to someone. You don't have to have a full blown conversation,
Right.
you know, because you're learning how to navigate relationships, and some relationships do deserve navigation.
And you're learning how to navigate your emotions.
Yes, and they deserve that. You deserve that. The people you're around, so you don't bleed on them.
Come on.
You don't bleed on them. It's not just always your children.
Right.
It could be you could be your sister. She
Yeah.
watching you. Your brother.
Yeah.
He watching you. Not that
Right.
he's watching to kind of get at you, but he's watching how you navigate that
Right.
relationship. Because maybe you're the only first person that's been healthy in their lives.
Yes.
Then
Yes.
all of a sudden, they're watching you navigate. So because they want to be healthy,
Right.
they're watching you. Your children, when you are having these emotional, relational things, your children hear it. They
They
see it.
see it. They experience it. They're
They
going through it with
experience it the same way. Listen,
Yes.
everything my mother felt, I felt.
I felt.
And I felt responsible for.
Right.
And it wasn't even my fault.
Right.
So we think we're doing a service to our children, standing up and trying to telling their father that he's nothing. No, you're not doing no favors. No favors. All you're doing is creating a cycle that he or she doesn't know how to break because she's seen it happen there.
Right. Absolutely.
So, out of all of this that we're talking about, what we want you to get out of it is you got to have a first relationship with your God, your higher power, that
Yes.
relation, and then have a relationship with yourself,
Health.
right? And then you can have
Yeah.
a relationship with someone else.
Right.
Take some time to build you up.
Right.
If like I told my grandson, if I knew what I knew at 40 something,
Mm.
what I knew at 20 something,
Mm-hmm.
your father probably wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here either. That's what I told him. But because I said, the reason why I want you to do is build you up. Yes, you have a right not to know what you want to do at 18. You got a right because you don't know.
You're still
You
growing.
really don't.
Yeah.
And you're making a relationship with yourself. So
Right.
get into something that's healthy for you, take care of you, nurtures you, moves you in a place that you
Mm-hmm.
feel happy and healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just talking about these things so that you can be a better person, you can have a better relationship, you
Right.
can have an impactful personal growth, and you could also affect future relationships with your family members and other people and
Absolutely.
the man or the woman that you're waiting for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Amen.
Yes. So, I want to thank you for being here. This is a very
Thank
good
you for
topic.
having me. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
this is a
I
great
appreciate
topic,
you.
and
Yes, it is.
we shall see you again very shortly. I will say again, we will see you again, and thank you for being here. This is the end of the show, everyone. And if you have any questions, any thoughts, put them in the comments below. Or if you're listening to me by audio, there's a button that you can leave a message, and we'll definitely get the answer back to you. So we appreciate you, and like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget. We love you. Talk to you later.
Bye. Take care.